Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to settle down. In the meantime, if you could just let us know where you're tuning in from, that would be wonderful. And then we'll get started in about 2 minutes. Looks like we have Windsor joining us, and Waterford, and Clinton, Fairfield. Excellent. Welcome Trumbull and Eastford, West Hartford, all over Connecticut. This is great. Clinton, I think we said that. We are excited as well. Vernon. We have about 1,200 students joining us today, so we just want to make sure everyone's settled before we begin. So give us 1 more minute. Welcome, Shelton. Thompson, Connecticut joins us today. We love books as well. Okay, we're going to get started. So good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this special celebration of Read Across America Day. Today, we come together to celebrate the power of books, the joy of storytelling, and the incredible journey that reading takes us on, whether through fantastical adventures, inspiring true stories, or the pages of our own imaginations. At this point in time, I would like to introduce Jade Gopi to share a few words. Jade is new to the Connecticut State Department of Education and serves as a bureau chief in the talent office. Prior to coming to CSDE, she was a biology teacher, high school administrator, assistant superintendent, and is in the process of receiving her doctorate. Jade, at this point, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kristen. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of our Chief Talent Officer, Dr. Shawana Tucker, and the State Department of Education, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our students and teachers joining with us today for our Reading Across America event with author Krista Weltner. We are so thrilled to come together virtually to honor the magic of reading and the incredible journeys it can take us on. First and foremost, I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to our educators. You are the heroes in our classrooms who nurture young minds and inspire the love of learning. Your dedication to making reading fun, engaging, and accessible to all of the students is invaluable. You are shaping future generations of thinkers, dreamers, and innovators, and we are deeply grateful for everything that you do. And to the students, today is all about you. Remember, books are filled with adventures, mysteries, and characters waiting to meet you. As you turn each page, you'll discover new worlds, whether you're diving into stories of faraway places or exploring the wonders of your surroundings. Let your imagination run wild and never, ever stop exploring. We are so glad you're here for this special event, and we hope you leave feeling inspired and excited to read more each and every day. A special thank you goes out to the CSDE team, Lisa, Kristen, Athena, Amy, and Matt for organizing today's event. Let's make today full of fun, imagination, and most importantly, a love for reading that lasts a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jade. Those are some amazing words. So today is about more than just reading. It's about the voices behind the books we love and the unique journeys that bring stories to life. And we are incredibly fortunate to have with us a very special guest, an author whose journey reminds us that creativity and perseverance can overcome any challenge. Krista Weltner is not only a talented writer and illustrator, but also an advocate for embracing differences. As someone with dyslexia, Krista has faced challenges with reading and writing that might have discouraged others, but instead she turned them into her greatest strengths. Through her storytelling, she brings to life unforgettable characters, rich worlds, and powerful messages of resilience, creativity, and self-expression. Her work proves that there is no single right way to be a reader or a writer, only your way. And today she is here to share her journey, inspire us all, and remind us that no challenge is too big when you follow your passion. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to the amazing Krista Weltner.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I love Read Across America Week. It's a great time to get excited about books and get excited about reading and start setting some goals. So yeah, I'm a picture book author and illustrator, and I'm so excited to be joining you. Like Kristen said, I did have struggles with dyslexia, and I still struggle with it today. But it is also something that I find enormous. I find to be an enormous gift in my life. I'm very talented and creative endeavors. But I also do struggle with reading and writing. And sometimes it just means that I need a little extra time to accomplish a reading task. So we're going to read some of my picture book series, but I'm also going to share a little bit about my life and the way I have taken my inspiration from my own childhood, being dyslexic, and turning it into something for all of you to read about and to share. So I do have a little presentation, which I think someone's going to help me. Yes. Oh, there it is. Thank you very much. So I've titled the presentation, How a Picture Book Gets Made, because I am fascinated myself about how things come to life. How do we bring stories into our libraries and into our homes? It seemed like just a big mystery to me before I got going with this series. I didn't always know I wanted to be an author. It sort of found me. I am very passionate about storytelling in all its forms. I actually also work in the film industry, working on animations, and I build tiny puppet characters. And I've been creating since I was a little girl. That's me, of course, on the left in the purple. Well, I'm in purple in both the images, but at my first art desk that I begged for and was in my bedroom. And so, yeah, I think that being an author really found me through illustration. I was becoming really passionate about illustration at the time, and I was building my portfolio and exploring characters. And of course, as I drew my characters, the stories kind of found me. And this is just an example of some of the current projects I'm working on. I like to do little cartoons, and I like to explore storytelling through sequential art. Sequential art is art that shows like a panel, a sequential scene in a panel format. So like comic books and graphic novels, the little illustration with the cat kind of shows that. But you can also call picture books sequential art as well, because they're combining images with words, and story happens between the pages and between the words. And it's up to us in our imagination to build out those stories and to complete the ideas. So these are my 3 picture books, Molly's Great Discovery, Molly Tells the World, and Molly Finds a Way. I was really grateful to have found a publisher that was excited about me and my story. I wanted to show a dyslexic character who had an imaginary friend who was also representative of her dyslexia. So I actually had a personal friend in my life named Mark Sloniker, and he had the idea. He challenged me to draw my dyslexia as a character. He was like, what would that look like? And these were some of the first illustrations I did with Molly and Lexi. And as soon as I drew them, the story came to me in a way. And I started to imagine, what would it be like if I could talk to my dyslexia? What kind of conversations would we have? How would we treat each other if we were having a bad day, or how would we work together to accomplish things? So that was kind of the jumping off point for my picture book series. And often these ideas just start from a tiny little nugget or inspiration source, like a doodle. So definitely, if you want to create your own stories, you can always expand on ideas. And yeah, so anyway, after I got started with the idea, I had to then format it into a picture book. And picture books are typically, there's like parameters in picture books and in publishing, which I didn't know about. If you actually flip the pages of like a standard published picture book, they do tend to be 32 pages. So when you're writing and creating for the picture book genre, you have to think about that and think about, how many pages do I have to tell this story? And at first my story was way too big, so I had to bring it down. And when I approached my publisher about it, they actually had the idea to bring it in, expand it into 3 books, because I had so many ideas. This is a very early draft of the picture book, the first one. It's called a picture book dummy, which is like a publishing term. It basically just means it's like a sketched out mock-up version of the book, so that the publisher or whoever is editing it and working on it can get an idea for the flow of the book. It's not complete. We don't finish the color. We don't color the illustrations at this stage. We're just sketching and playing. And it's almost like you're writing both sets of the story. So what I love about publishing is that it's not just words, it is images. And I love storytelling that combines those 2 elements. So when we were in our early discussions at the publishing house, we wanted to define what we wanted to do about, like, with dyslexia, because there were books on the market about dyslexia, but we wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to focus on self-advocacy. So what self-advocacy is helping yourself. You are letting it be known when you need help. And in this first book, you'll see that Molly has a little bit of trouble just gathering the courage to just raise her hand and ask for help. And that's a very important skill. And it's something that that you'll need throughout your lifetime. And I have definitely needed throughout my lifetime. It's been easier in times of struggle with my dyslexia. It has definitely been easier when I've let it be known that I was struggling or that I needed a little extra time on something. And in our second book, we wanted to talk a bit about self-appreciation. Molly and Lexi are a bit at odds with each other in the second book, and Molly is trying to decide if she wants to tell her classmates that she's dyslexic. So that inspiration source kind of came out of some events from my own childhood, where I was on the playground and a lot of people had questions about my dyslexia and they wanted to know all about it, and I just didn't know how to explain it. So I wanted to make a book that helped support that and support children that might have other learning challenges. And also, the great thing about this book series is it's not just for dyslexic children, it's not just for neurodivergent children, it's for everybody. So everybody can learn something from Molly and Lexi, including the self-appreciation bit. And then the third book, which we unfortunately won't have time to get into today, is also about like dyslexic strengths. So in that book, Molly is solving a lot of problems. What's really cool about dyslexia is it does come with a lot of strengths, including problem solving and big picture thinking, and narrative reasoning. There's a whole list, but I won't get into it. So this is an illustration from the first book, which we will see in a bit. This is like behind the scenes images from my room, from my art room, from where I used to live, where I was just trying to wrap my brain around these 3 big ideas. So I kind of had to put the sketches up on the wall and play with them and kind of see them that way, because it's kind of hard to look at things when it's just on a tiny computer and to see start to finish the story. So this really helped me a lot just to visualize what I was doing. And I'm just going to share the process for one illustration. So with an illustration, you have a lot that you need to consider visually, because you're communicating visually. It's just like words, but it's words with pictures. So for this scene, I needed to introduce some new characters, Leanne and Izzy. Leanne is the girl with the 3 buns, and Izzy is the character in the middle of the desk. So I need to introduce these characters. I also needed to show our main characters, Molly and Lexi, having a side conversation. And then I also needed to show a reader pen that Molly had, because all of these things were referred to in the text of the picture book. And then we also had to leave enough white space around the characters, which proved to be a big challenge because there was a lot of text. There was a lot of words on this page. So this was, I'm just showing you this quickly, but this was like my editor pointing out some different things and telling me to move things around and how to play with it. And from here, we ended up kind of with this. So I had to propose an entirely new orientation for these characters because it just, what we were doing was not working. And if you look at that center line down the center of the screen, that's called the gutter. So in publishing, we call that the gutter, and you don't want things to fall into the gutter. It's kind of a fun turn of phrase. But because that is like the crack of the book where you wouldn't want anything visually important right in the center. So some of the problems with our previous illustration was that things were falling in the gutter. So this is our final version. It's kind of fun to flip between. And yeah, I think from here, these are just the covers. So what was kind of cool is the publisher took a little bit of the mental load from me, and for the covers, they told me what I was going to illustrate for the covers. So like for everything else, as the illustrator, you get to bring your own ideas to the table and sketch, and you are the one who proposes the idea. But for these covers, actually, they were the one who said, we want to show Molly and Lexi on the front cover. We want like minimal background. And they said, we want like flying objects that represent what's going on in each story. So it was kind of nice at that stage in the book development, because it was like towards the end of the process and I was really, really tired. So it was really nice of them to come at me with a few ideas that I could execute. So I'm going to read the first Molly book, but I want to say, if you have, I can't see the comments, but if you have questions, put them in the comments, because we are going to have like a question and answer session right after this. And that's also going to be a good time to take like a wiggle break if you need to stretch. But we're going to be doing the question and answers at that stage. And then hopefully we'll read another book if we have time and then go into more questions. So without further ado, this is my first book, Molly's Great Discovery. All right. There is an invisible part of Molly that nobody else knows about. Molly calls her Lexi. Molly and Lexi have a big imagination. They like to play games, solve problems, learn new things. But learning to read is challenging for Molly and Lexi. Learning to spell is even harder. They practice as much as they can for the spelling test. They only get a few words right, just like last week and the week before that. Mr. Mitchell is always encouraging. Keep at it, Molly, you're a smart kid. Ask Mr. Mitchell for help, suggests Lexi. I don't know what to say. The words won't come out right, sighs Molly. When Molly writes, she has so many ideas and important thoughts, but she can't seem to put them on paper. Please ask Mr. Mitchell for help, begs Lexi. If I do that, everyone will think I'm dumb, moans Molly. During quiet reading time, Molly sees how fast the other kids fly through their books. It's like they have a superpower that I don't. Ask for help, says Lexi, but Molly just turns the pages of her book quickly and pretends to read. I don't want anyone to know I'm different, she explains. Mr. Mitchell interrupts quiet reading with an announcement. Today we're going to practice reading out loud. I can't do this, whispers Molly. I wish I could run from it. I wish I could hide from it. Lexi gives Molly a big hug. We can't hide forever. You need to ask for help. Mr. Mitchell is always asking us if we have questions. I think he loves questions. What if everyone else finds out? Molly asked. They'll know I'm different. It's okay to be different, says Lexi. With a big breath, Molly and Lexi march up to Mr. Mitchell. Can you help me with my reading and spelling? Molly asks. I'm so glad you asked for help, says Mr. Mitchell. That is very brave. Mr. Mitchell introduces Molly to a teacher named Mrs. Feltz. For one afternoon, Molly gets to play games, take reading tests, and do fun puzzles. After that, Miss Feltz knows why Molly has trouble in reading and spelling. Molly has dyslexia. Miss Feltz explains that dyslexia is a learning disability. It makes spelling, reading, and writing extra challenging. It also makes Molly extra creative and smart in ways kids without dyslexia might not be. Miss Feltz tells Molly that lots of people are dyslexic. Everyone has a unique way of thinking and doing things. Some differences are on the outside and some are on the inside. Molly and Lexi finally understand. Now Molly gets the help she needs in the Learning Center. Lots of other kids do too. Some need extra help with math, handwriting, speaking, or reading, and some need a quiet space to take a test or do their work. Each has their own invisible difference. Back in Mr. Mitchell's classroom, Molly and Lexi feel much better. They get more spelling words right, they read at their own pace, and when Molly needs a little extra help, she asks for it. Yay! So that's the first book in our series. I think I'm going to have a helper come join me potentially for questions. But anyhow, yeah. So Molly's Great Discovery, that was definitely the first idea that came to mind. Oh, wait. Okay, there you are. For a minute, I thought, oh no, I have not been presenting this whole time. I was talking to the computer. I hope you're all there.
Yes, we are here and we have some questions that came in. And so we'll take those questions now and then hopefully get to your second book. So Jennifer's class has asked, how many books have you made in all?
Just these three. These are my first three published books. I have a lot of other ideas and I'm pitching a lot of things to publishers and agents right now, but this is my first three that are out there.
Awesome. And we love these three. Grace, who is an 8-year-old who is newly diagnosed as dyslexic. Wonderful. She would like to know, how was it for you growing up with dyslexia? She also wanted to comment that she loves this book.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I bet you're brilliant. I had a lot of academic support. So I was diagnosed when I was 7. So I had a lot of help from my teachers. I would go to tutoring after school. Sometimes I was pulled out of my normal class and I had individual reading instruction, which was really, really helpful for me to have that extra time. And yeah, but it was definitely a struggle at times just to learn to accept myself, I guess. I had a lot of a stress going into the classroom because I was really nervous that other people would find out I was dyslexic. And even though I think nowadays we're a little bit past that and people are much more open about dyslexia and we know it's just a difference. It's not nothing to be ashamed of. But at the time I was really struggling with that.
Kristen would like to know, were you ever bullied for your dyslexia?
Maybe yes, a little bit. I did have one teacher who did, she didn't bully me directly. She didn't mean to be mean, but she was mean at certain points. But she was also an older educator, and I just don't think she understood. I think sometimes when people bully, there's something else going on with them. It's less to do about you and more to do with them sometimes. So. But yeah, that can be challenging.
Great. And I'm a big fan of, like, once you know better, you do better. And so hopefully that teacher learned about dyslexia and she's doing better by other students now.
Yeah, hopefully.
So Ryan would like to know, how did you feel when you figured out you had dyslexia?
I think that I didn't really know much about it. I think that's why I really felt like I wanted to write this picture book series to help provide a little bit of information about dyslexia to people that are dyslexic and who are not. When I was a kid, all I knew was that I was different and that I needed help with reading and spelling, and that dyslexia made reading and spelling hard. I didn't really know about the positive side to dyslexia, and finding out about some of that other stuff really helped me navigate my own feelings about it. So yeah, but I don't remember the moment when my parents told me I was dyslexic, but I think it was somewhere around the 2nd grade.
Okay, we have a lot of questions coming up, so we're going to try to get to as many as we can. If we don't get to your questions during this round, our hope is that after Krista reads her second book, we'll also have some time for a Q&A. So keep the questions coming, and like I said, we'll try to get to them all. And then if we don't get to your questions today, I think Krista's going to share her contact information, and you can always ask her through those means as well. But Mason would like to know, is everyone with dyslexia born with it, or can you develop dyslexia?
Ooh, actually, most people are born with it. So it's something that's lifelong. It can't be cured. It's always going to be there. Like, I still struggle with my dyslexia, but it's also something that I do believe can develop through, like, if you have really bad head trauma, like if you're in a car accident or something. Like, some people I think can develop it that way, but it would be really extreme, rare examples, I believe. Yeah. But actually, a lot of people are dyslexic. I think that the statistic is like somewhere between 10% and 20% of the population actually have it. A lot of people don't know that they're dyslexic. You kind of have to have it in a profound way for it to be found out sometimes. But, oh no.
We're going to take a couple more questions. We want to make sure we have time for your next book. So let's take 3 more questions, and then we'll go to your next book. And like I said, we'll try to get to the other questions after the second book. So 3 more questions. Okay. So Kristen would like to know, did you name the character Molly for any particular reason?
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at naming characters. It's really hard for me. I don't remember. I think I named her Molly because Molly and Lexi, like, I like the sound of the L sound together. Previously, her name was Ava. And at one point, Lexi's name was LD. It was like, it stood for learning difference, because sometimes people, that's like a shorthand for like learning difference or learning disability. So it was LD and Ava, but it just didn't sound nice, or didn't like roll off the tongue. But you'll see. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to spoil anything. Never mind. I was going to say something about the other book, but.
Okay, 2 more questions. Let's see what we have coming up here. So Lowen would like to know, did you have a fear of reading? And if so, how did you overcome that? These are wonderful questions, everyone. Keep them coming.
Very insightful. I did have a big fear of reading. I still have a fear of reading. When people ask me to read my picture books out loud, it's kind of tough for me, to be honest. And I forgot to mention before I read that book, typically when I read a book out loud and I'm talking about my dyslexia, I let everyone know, like, hey, I'm dyslexic. Like, because I'm educating people about dyslexia, I want you to listen to my voice and hear that I'm stumbling over my words a little bit or something, because I just want to point that out, because that is part of my dyslexia. So yeah, I haven't really gotten over, well, maybe I've gotten over it because I was able to read, I'm able to read out loud to folks, but that was probably my biggest fear in school, for sure. I would, like, when the teacher would say, okay, we're reading this chapter and everybody's going to do a paragraph, and it would be like, they would go through every student. I would count, I'd be like, okay, I'm the 9th student, and okay, look at my paragraph, and what's the 9th paragraph? And I'd like practice it over and over again in my head before they got to me, because I was really nervous. Yeah, it's just something you got to plow through, I guess.
I'm sure a lot of students might feel that way that are on today. So I think by hearing that, story, that there are other people that have that fear, makes them feel at ease if they have that fear as well.
Well, and I hear that fear from people that aren't dyslexic too. I think sometimes just reading out loud is really, can be scary.
I agree. So our last question for now, before we get into book 2, is from Freddie wants to know how long it took you to make each book.
Okay, so I made all 3 at once, which was kind of intense. It took a year and 2 months from me signing the contract with my publisher and just working on them. But it took like 3 years prior to that is when the idea started. But the thing about my ideas is they will rotate. So like, I'll work on a project for a while, put it away, and then bring it back out a year later. So it, start to finish, like, I could say probably the 14 months is the best answer, but it started earlier. And the illustrations took like 7 months just by themselves, just the illustrations.
Wow. Takes a while to create a book.
Yeah, it takes a little bit. Yeah. It was nice to get to work on all 3 at once, because I was in the rhythm of drawing those characters over and over. And I think I counted at one point that I drew the main characters like 71 times, I think, throughout the 3 books, because they're on every page.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot.
Well, these, like I mentioned before, these are great questions. We so appreciate them. Please keep adding your questions to the chat. We will try to get to some more after the second book that Krista is going to read to us now.
Yeah. So this is Molly Tells the World. This is my personal favorite in the series. And I think that the main point of this book, that idea was actually originally in the first book, but then, like I was saying earlier, how my publisher said, well, you have too many ideas for one book, let's make it 3 books. It just ended up in the second book, but it's holds true that this is my favorite. So, okay, Molly Tells the World. Lexi is an invisible part of Molly called dyslexia. Being dyslexic gives Molly a big imagination, but it also makes reading and writing extra challenging. Today, Molly's class is getting a new student. Everyone is looking forward to meeting her. You're being so silly this morning, Molly laughs. I'm just excited, giggles Lexi. Finally, the new student arrives. This is Leanne, Mr. Mitchell announces. Leanne sits in Molly's pod. She unpacks her bag and places a special device on her desk. What is that? Asks Olivia. It's my reader pen, explains Leanne. I use it because I'm dyslexic, and this is Izzy, my dyslexia. Molly, look, whispers Lexi. Everyone can see Izzy. I want to be visible too. Tell them we have dyslexia. But Lexi isn't ready. I don't know what to say, she admits. Everyone is curious about Izzy. Leanne explains that Izzy is a part of her that is her dyslexia. Everyone's brain works differently, she says. My dyslexic brain needs extra help learning to read and spell. Lexi asks Molly again to tell everyone they're dyslexic. Molly still isn't ready. All morning, Lexi tries to convince Molly. Please, she begs. I want to make friends. By the time they get to art class, Molly is grumpy. Stop bugging me, she snaps. I don't want people to know about you yet. But Lexi is fed up too. She kicks her paint pot over Molly's mermaid. Molly scribbles across Lexi's sea monster. They are frustrated with each other. Lexi grows bigger and bigger and bigger until everyone can see her. What is that? Asks Lucas. Molly has one of those things like Izzy. Back in the classroom, Molly finds Mr. Mitchell. I hate being different. I wish I didn't have dyslexia, she says. Molly's words hurt Lexi deeply. She shrinks smaller and smaller and smaller until she can climb into Molly's backpack. No one will notice me in here, she says. Oh, excuse me. Molly imagines what it would be like to not have Lexi. Without Lexi, Molly's spelling would be better, but she wouldn't know what to write. She would read faster, but the story wouldn't seem as bright. Without Lexi, Molly wouldn't feel like herself. Molly unzips her backpack. I'm sorry, Lexi. I love that you're a part of me. I'm ready for everyone to meet you, but I'm still not sure what to say. I'm sorry too, Lexi replies. I know who we can ask for help. Molly and Lexi find Leanne and Izzy. I'm dyslexic too, Molly tells them, and this is my Lexi. Will you help me introduce her? With Leanne's help, Molly shows Lexi to her class. She tells them that she has dyslexia, like Leanne. She also shares Lexi's help. Sorry, everyone. She also shares how Lexi helps her be smart and creative and a good storyteller. She is amazing, says Olivia. Everyone is unique, exclaims Leanne. It's okay to be different, Molly agrees. Molly is thrilled to have met Leanne. Feeling different inside can be lonely, but it's much easier with fantastic friends. Now Molly knows it's her differences that make her who she is, and that's exactly who she needs to be. Okay. Oh, I stumbled through that one a little bit. I hope you all noticed that. So I think it was maybe because I called attention to it or I got nervous or something, but even I get nervous when I have to read out loud.
Thank you for reading that second book. At the end, I'm going to ask you for a preview of the third book, just a little kind of sneak preview of what we can expect.
Okay.
If people, not now, but if
I don't have
people,
the slides up, or I can bring a book over, but
just a little snippet of what people can expect maybe in the third book. But for now, we have some more questions that people would love the answer to. So Aiden would like to know, did having dyslexia affect your friendships? Wow, great question, Aiden.
That is a good question. I had a friend named Meredith she loved reading so much, and she really wanted me to read the Harry Potter series. And at one point she gave me one of the books to read and I couldn't get through it. So I watched the movie instead. And I don't know if she ever found out about that, but I did end up reading those books later and I loved them. I think they're really good. And it's nice for me when I can read a book that also has like a movie attached to it, because I can watch the movie and also read the book. And that carries through to my adult, books that I like in my adulthood too. I really like adaptations.
Thanks. Did you ever tell her that you didn't read the books and that you just watched the movies, or did? I
don't think so. And it was only the first movie because we were in elementary school. So I must have fooled her. I guess it affected our friendship, sort of. But
gotcha. Before this question, I think there was a question about what grade, but you might have already answered it. But what grade were you diagnosed with dyslexia, or I
was in second grade, like the beginning of second grade. So I think I was about 7, and it was a teacher that noticed. But I also have my mom's also a teacher, so she also had like a keen eye on it. She's an art teacher though; she's not a reading teacher. But yeah.
Thanks. So Julie would like to know, is your book series done, or will you make more?
I would love to make more. And actually, when I was first talking with the publisher, we had 6 books in mind, but then we decided on just 3. So you never know. But it depends on how well they do. And, that's kind of up to the publisher. But I'd love to do more with Molly. Yeah. Molly and Leanne and Izzy and company.
Do you have ideas for those future books?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, we would totally support more with the series.
I would really love to bring in, like, I guess I can share the one page that we already looked at it on the slide, but Molly, when she's in her learning center classroom, she's got all these other friends around that all have their little characters. So it's like, I would love to do something with these guys too. If you can see those. Like, who is that little orange guy? We want to know.
If the students agree that Krista should make more books for her series, put that in the chat.
Oh my gosh, yes. And we'll get them to write to the publisher. It'll be great.
Exactly. Okay, let's take another question. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this name. I also struggled with reading as well. Ania is going to be my best guess, and so I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly. But she would like to know what kinds of teachers helped you once you found out you had dyslexia.
Well, I think that all my teachers helped me. I think what's great about teachers is even if they're not your actual teacher, if you want to go up to a teacher that you feel comfortable with, that's great. So I really liked, like, our guidance counselor helped me a lot. And there was like a reading specialist, I think, at my school that we would go to, like, to a separate class from my normal class. And she was really great. Her name was Miss Myers. Shout out Miss Myers. So yeah.
I'm sure there are other Miss Myers out there. So if you're an educator out there supporting your students, you're going to be considered a Miss Meyer. And just so you know, Krista, we had a big yes shouted our class for more books in the series.
Okay, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Okay, let's take some more questions. We're going to do about another 10 or so minutes of questions. So keep those questions coming. And then at the end, we're going to share some resources with everyone, some activities that you can do after the read aloud for later on, as well as some information about where you can get Krista's books. So Michael would like to know, what made you become an author?
Well, so outside of picture books, I'm also a filmmaker. I actually made a short film about dyslexia when I was in school. I went to graduate school. So I actually have 2 degrees. I have a degree in theater design and technology, it's like focused in costume design, and then also puppetry arts, which seems super super interesting and obscure. But actually, you all should know that I went to the University of Connecticut, and that's where I got my degree in puppet arts. So if you end up in a similar vein to me, it's a great school to go to. I really loved my time there. And while I was there, I was studying animation, and I made my short film, like we were talking about. So I was kind of, even though the picture books make me an author, I've always been a writer in a sense. So I've been creating my own like puppet shows and doing children's theater, and also making the film. So yeah, I guess that kind of answers the question. I feel like I had something else to say about Connecticut, but I can't remember. Just that I went there. You went there too, right?
I did go to UConn. Go Huskies. Woo!
Yeah,
Hopefully some folks are shouting out there, go Huskies.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say I hadn't even thought about picture books as an avenue, but because I was studying stop motion, the stop motion program was actually in the middle of the illustration department at the University of Connecticut, and they like gave me this little closet to do my project in. It was in the middle of the illustration department, so I was like coming out at like 2 a.m, working on my projects and seeing what the illustration students were doing, and it just inspired me. I was like, oh, this is a whole other world I hadn't even considered.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, let's see. Are there other questions out there? Clara, how old were you when you decided to become an author?
26, because it was when I was working on when I got out of grad school and I started to build my portfolio. Because at first I was just building an illustration portfolio, and I was just drawing and doodling and learning how to do digital illustrations. And then from these characters I was drawing, the stories were coming, and I realized, oh, I need to do both these things. Because you can be in the picture book world, you can be an author that is paired with illustrators, and so it's like a duo, it's like a team, or you can do both. So it just depends. I do both, but
okay. So we're going to take a couple more questions. We're going to try to get as many questions as we can for another, I would say 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, and then depending on how many we get in. And then I want Krista to make sure that she shares a follow-up to activity that classrooms can engage in, and we have some information we want to share with you. So about another 5 to 8 minutes of questions, and then we'll go from there. So Coco would like to know, were you scared to write a book?
Yes, a little bit. I think I'm always scared to submit my ideas to publishers or to friends, because it's, I think art is, all art is like a piece of ourselves. So it can be kind of scary to put yourself out there like that. But it's something that you just have to push through. There's a lot of rejection in the publishing world. You know, I submit my work to publishers and agents all the time and get emails back that say this just isn't a fit for us. And the way I like to deal with getting those emails is I turn right back around and I submit something else, or I turn right back around and I get started on another project. It helps keep me moving, because not everything's going to get published. So.
Thanks. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties over here, so I went off screen for a little bit, but I'm back. So Preston wants to know, which is more difficult, illustrating or writing the book? Oh, that's a great question, Preston.
Writing, 1000%. For me, it's difficult. Like right now, I'm working on a search and find activity book where it's not traditional like writing in a sense of like I'm writing a story, but I'm putting sentences together with objects that are in the illustration that you have to find, and trying to write those rhymes and make sure all of the syllables like match up on the lines, and counting my syllables correctly. And that is that's a real challenge right now.
I can imagine with dyslexia, you know, that the rhyming portion or syllabication portion could be a little bit challenging. So kudos for you for doing that.
It is, but thankfully with publishing, a lot of times I think ideas are rewarded, because it's like we as authors and illustrators have the ideas, and the publishers have the editors who are really intensely interested in grammar and spelling, and they can kind of help fill the gaps in a little bit. So that's good. So if you struggle with reading or writing, you can still be an author and illustrator for sure. And the biggest thing you need to be an author is fun ideas.
I am sure there are plenty of fun, creative ideas out there. And as an office, please, email us at the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities to let us know about your fun ideas. And when Krista shares her email address, you can email her as well.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Noah would like to know, did you share that you had dyslexia with others? Or if you did, when did you share that information?
I did not. So I was very secretive about my dyslexia, and you'll kind of see that in the second book that we just read in my series. Like she really reflects a lot of me. Molly is kind of scared to tell her classmates. She doesn't really know what she's going to say. And so I really kept my dyslexia very private, and that's an okay thing too. Like I think some people want to keep their learning differences private, and some people want people to know about them, and either way is okay. But at some point, my classmates in third grade did like accidentally find out I was dyslexic. And so there was a point when everybody found out and they wanted to know, and they were asking me questions, and I didn't know how to answer them. And it also wasn't my choice to have told them. So it was a tricky time for me. But that's really why I wanted to write that second book, to show Molly kind of going through those things too, because it's really common.
It is common. And if you have shared experiences, please feel free to add those into the chat. I love engaging with the folks that are adding the comments into the chat. And just so you know, Krista, folks are saying we need more books in your series. So yeah, I feel like you have the evidence for more. Okay, let's take a couple more questions, maybe 3 more questions, and then we'll talk about our activities. Okay, so did you make other friends? This is a same person, Anaya, and I'm sorry. Did you make other friends that also had dyslexia?
I wish I had. And looking back, I was telling you all about that reading specialist that I used to see, Mrs. Myers. I believe that I was in that class with like 2 other boys, and I think looking back that they probably had dyslexia too, but we didn't really talk about it, so I wasn't sure why we were all there. I just knew we all needed extra help. So I didn't have a lot of friends or people to look to. I think that was maybe part of why I kept it so secret and so inside, as I thought I was the only one. And it turns out there's a lot of people that are dyslexic. But I think, it's always good to build a community and to make friends with other people that are different.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, even if they didn't have dyslexia, they might have had differences or learning struggles. And so maybe if not, found eligible with dyslexia, they were kind of going through their own situation with reading, writing, math. So even if folks out there don't have dyslexia, but you're going through those feels of struggling with something, there are a lot of people that can relate to that. So,
and I have a lot of friends now who have learning differences. And like I said, I worked on a big film. There was a lot of people that had neurodivergent thinking styles on that film, like not just dyslexia, but like everything. And so a lot of creative neurodivergent people end up in filmmaking, which is kind of cool. A lot of brilliant people.
There are a lot of celebrities, a lot of famous people that have dyslexia as well.
Yeah.
Walt Disney, I think, has dyslexia, for all those kids out there that have gone to Disney World. Yeah.
That's cool.
So let's take another question. Mason would like to know, why did you decide to make Molly's dyslexia into its own little character?
Well, it was my friend who he's thanked in the first book, I believe, in my thank you, my dedication page. My friend challenged me to draw my dyslexia as a character. So it was really just his idea. I was trying to draw something to do with my dyslexia for like an art contest. It was for the International Dyslexia Association. They had some kind of art contest, and I was building up my portfolio at the time. So I was like, what do I draw about my dyslexia? And he was sitting across from me at work, and he was like, you should just draw your dyslexia like as a person or as a character. And I was like, that's brilliant. So I had to credit him, of course. And he's also one of my my good friends. He's like an illustration and like writing partner, or like we submit work to each other to kind of give each other feedback all the time. So that's where the idea came from. But then once I started thinking about it more, I started thinking about my own relationship to my dyslexia and how it's really changed. Dyslexia was something I didn't always appreciate about myself, but now I really love that I'm dyslexic, and I would like never change it. So I wanted to give other people a way to read about these characters and sort of explore that idea within themselves. Like, how do they feel about their dyslexia? So,
well, you said his name was Matt.
Mark.
Mark. Well, thank you, Mark, because we are so grateful for these books. We'll take one more question and then we'll share your slide with an activity that the classrooms can participate in. Okay. So Kristen's class would like to know if you have a favorite character in the books.
Yeah, it's probably Lexi. It's definitely Lexi. But you know what? Where is it? This secondary character that we saw named Izzy, who is Leanne's dyslexia, I actually drew her, I drew her much later than Lexi. And I visually, from an artistic standpoint, I like the way I illustrated her a little better than Lexi. But, and I really wanted to show that even though Leanne and Molly both have dyslexia, their little imaginary friends look very different from each other, because dyslexia can look different in different people. I struggle with reading out loud, but some dyslexic people are really great at reading out loud and they struggle with other parts of their reading comprehension or spelling. So it just depends.
Great. So we're going to get your slides back up here so that you can talk about the activity that classrooms can engage in. And just for a random, I saw a question. Do you illustrate for other authors? Random question, but I think it was in the chat and I saw that and I was actually intrigued.
Well, I tend to focus on my own work because I'm trying to get whole books published that I've written and illustrated, but I have illustrated for a few different self-published authors. And I'm talking with actually a group now that does the Orton Gillingham approach, which is like a reading approach. I'm talking with them about maybe doing some illustrations. Yeah. So yes, but I tend to go for my own work.
Nice. Do you want to explain this follow-up activity to our crowd?
Yeah, if anyone wants to do this. So I have free on my website, I've got these little coloring pages, but also I think it would be really fun if anyone wants to draw what their learning difference would look like, or if you don't have a learning difference, that's okay too. You can draw what your difference would look like. And this is like a really creative project or idea. Like maybe you're the tallest one in your class. Like, what does that look like? Maybe maybe you moved from another state, so you're the only one who came in from another state. And what can that look like as a character? So it's a fun challenge. And I think, I have control over the slides. I was acting like I don't. So yeah, I did like little arrows. Oh no, the arrows are askew, but you'll understand. So you can find the downloadable pages, teachers. You can find them on my website. Down towards the bottom, it says free resources, and it's on the books tab. So please ignore all these crazy arrows. And I put my website address up there and also my email address. If you all have any follow-up questions, I'm very open and willing to answer those. And I would love to see some little differences drawn. I did this with a couple other schools and it was really fun.
So the classrooms could share their drawings with you or the Office of Dyslexia, and then hopefully we can showcase them on our website or through our social media. So if you get a chance to do this activity, please let either Krista or our office know that you've engaged in this activity, and then hopefully we can share this out with the public.
Yeah.
So before we conclude today's event, Krista, I'm wondering, do you want to just give a little, for the folks that might want to read the third book, do you want to give a little sneak preview of it?
Yeah, let's do that. Can you see me on the screen?
Yes.
I don't know if it's reversed. It's reversed for me, which is extra challenging.
It is.
Okay, good. So this is Molly Finds a Way. So in this book, we get to see Leanne and Izzy again. And this one follows kind of a different formula from the other two books. So in this one, there is a play date that's happening. Oh, let's see. So Molly's at her house in this one. So my publisher really wanted to do one story that wasn't in the school. They wanted to do one that was at Molly's house. So Leanne is coming over to join Molly for a play date. And we have them shaking hands via bumping their elbows because it was COVID when I drew this. And you can see, actually, this is a really fun page too. This is explaining the various strengths that Molly and Lexi each bring to Molly and Leanne each bring to the table. Leanne is very interested in science, and I imagine that she grows up to be a famous scientist. And Molly is more like me, and she's very interested in the arts. So it's kind of a fun book that they get to showcase their their problem-solving strengths. And I won't give too much away, but they have like a fun time outside, and they're drawing in chalk on the sidewalk, but then it starts to rain. So what do they do to solve this problem? So they run inside, and I won't give away anymore. But
Thank you for that sneak preview. Just so everyone knows, Krista's books are available through a curated collection from the state library. And so we have a link here that folks can access so that if they're interested in acquiring these sets of books for use, they can find them through the state library. There are, I believe, 25 sets of them available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. And they're also available for purchase on Amazon. Krista, where else can they find your books?
Yeah, they are on Amazon. I like to say they are available anywhere you like to buy books, you can buy them, but I can't guarantee they'll be on the shelf. So like if you really like to go to Books & Co, is that out of business? One of those. If you like to go to one of those major bookstores, you can, but you have to order it through them. Also, I think there are some discounts for like if you get a big bulk order for like a school district. I believe they have discounts, but you have to go via my through my publisher. Email me if you want. I'm very open, and I can figure out where you can purchase.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so really that concludes today's event. We are so appreciative of Krista joining us for a second time during this calendar of events through our dyslexia awareness campaign in Connecticut. Also available on your website is the partially compensated short film. So
yes,
teachers can access that there as well, correct?
It's a short stop motion film. It's completely nonverbal, so it's just sound and music, but it's about 10 minutes, also about dyslexia. It's good. It's a little bit better for older students, but it's appropriate. Yeah.
Great. And so if folks want to gather information about future Connecticut Dyslexia Awareness Campaign events, please sign up for the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities listserv, or visit us at our website, which we have posted here on this slide. Either way, you can access information about future events. And who knows, maybe Krista will be back another time this year. Definitely next year, we would love her back. But again, Krista, it's such a pleasure having you. And we're so fortunate for you joining us today. And we're so glad that so many kids and students and educators in Connecticut were able to access our event. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.